Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage in the sunny, warm state of Maine. It was a beautiful Friday. I spent a lot of the day outside working on the Turbo 400 that I stripped last week that has a broken Bellhousing and had destroyed itself internally in only a few miles. So more clues continue to unearth as I slowly work my way through it. I didn't touch it all week. I had other things to do, but today and probably the rest of the weekend, I need to get it back together. So, today was case prep. Cut off the Bellhousing, drill the extra bolt hole, etc., etc. And I gotta say, the sun felt wonderful working on it. I watch a lot of different channels. I was watching this guy, his YouTube channel is named Burn Down. He's in California somewhere, and most days he's working out in his driveway, and it's 100 degrees or more. Maybe it's a dry heat, but I'd probably just melt. Today at 70 was about all I want, but it felt pretty good. It's a bright, beautiful Friday morning. Last year, I had purchased a bunch of transmission holders, this part. I bought a few and made a few bench holders, but I also made this adapter to put it on an engine stand. And I just used this engine stand to build the 505 big block Chevy, and I hate the way the front legs are, splayed out because it doesn't play well with the engine crane. However, the adapter is pretty much universal engine stand size, but here it is, adapting a Turbo 400. Now I'm outside. I'm going to cut the Bellhousing off, make all the noise, and that aluminum grinding dust that's so fine that gets all over my shop. I'll now be able to do it outside. A lot easier on me anyway. So that's the plan today. You've seen me cut off Bellhousings many times before, but same deal. I'm going to mark across here and cut down on each side, meet in the middle, and then grind the remainder. In a rare move, the night I stripped this case so I could figure out what was wrong with it, I hadn't stripped the linkage out of it or the modulator plug and valve. So before I started cutting, I had to make 16 trips back into the shop to get tools so I could accomplish that. I just should have done it when I stripped it. But I didn't, and I guess I'm only human. Bellhousing's off, and I've ground the case and gave it its preliminary wash. Sorry about the wind noise if there is any. And normally I'd be pretty close to final cleaning and painting, but I have to drill the 7th hole. And that requires a little more setup than you can accomplish outside, or at least I'm going to attempt outside. So I'll take the case back inside, spend a couple hours doing that, then modifying the pump, and then wash and paint. Back inside to drill the pump hole. I'll go over this once again. There's 3 raised areas on a Turbo 400. When you're clearancing for a Bellhousing, you need to remove them. And from this surface here where the pump rests, you want to be flat out. So I go flat all the way around. You have to ramp up here to the pan rail. Same on this side. You grind a lot of material out of here because you got to get into this piece right here. This has to go flush with this circle. So when you're done, you get this uninterrupted circle. And now is the time to make sure the threads for the pump bolt holes are 100%. I was marking the depth with a drill bit, and this one offered no resistance because half the threads are missing. So I need to helicoil that one, and I'll be drilling and tapping this one directly. The back half of the pump has all 8 holes, so we only have to drill through the front cover. To accomplish that accurately, I've made a drill fixture that fits in the hole. I'm trying to do this looking through the camera. And now I can just, using my cordless drill, I have 1.25 inches of steel holding me straight. And I went ahead and drilled 1/8 inch all the way down through. And now I'm going to put the pump in the case and bolt it down where it belongs. And I'll use this as my drill fixture to start and go as deep as I need to in 1/8 inch into the case. That way I know I'm straight and in the right spot. And then I'll enlarge it to 17/64 and then tap the hole. You want to be sure to take all the rock out of the pump so everything's centered and loose, all the bolts start easy. And I've gone ahead and drilled a good ways in with my 1/8 inch drill bit. Again, the pump's holding me straight, so it's almost foolproof. Now is also a good time to make sure your Bellhousing is going to clear. And I have daylight showing, and I'm interfering right there. So I just had to touch a little spot out of the case, not the Bellhousing, where that ramps up toward the pan rail. That's why you check it. I'm good everywhere else. I gave myself a little more clearance. I've drilled and tapped my hole, drilled the holes in the pump, and tried on all the bolts to make sure everything fits. You don't want to wait till final assembly to find out something is wrong. Back to the outside stand where I washed it, and then I took my sharpening stone and went over the valve body area to make sure it's flat. And then I washed it 2 more times in all positions with the pressure washer. Now I'll let it dry in the sun. Then I'll clean it with brake clean, blow it off, plug it up, and paint it. It's killing me to leave the electrical pass-through in place, but this was a brand new build with an internal solenoid trans brake, and they glued it in pretty good. And it wasn't leaking. So I guess I'll leave it, even though it kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. It is what it is, as they say. I'm going to break it if I try to get it out. Finally, it took all afternoon, but it's painted, back in the stand, ready to assemble, piece by piece. Another clue to why this transmission destroyed itself, unearthed itself when I was stripping the pump so I could modify it this afternoon, that the aluminum that rubbed off the aluminum direct drum and the aluminum case saver had jammed the pressure regulator solid. Took quite a bit to get it out. I was just watching the intro I shot, and I swear I have a sweatshirt on underneath this really tight shirt, or I spent too much time relaxing by the fire this winter. Maybe if it was 100 degrees, I'd sweat some off. Today took a long time for what I accomplished. Cutting the Bellhousing off with the Sawzall goes really fast, and the grinding isn't too bad, but it's going to probably take a half an hour by the time you try and fit things a couple times. Drilling, I only had to drill 1 hole in the Bellhousing. You can run an aftermarket Bellhousing with 6 or 7 bolts, but in this case, the 8th bolt was easy to attain. Easy is a relative term. It takes time, and you only have 1 shot at it. You mess it up, I'd be looking for another pump and another case. That's why a while back I made that little drill fixture, and that really makes it pretty accurate. I was able to bore the hole deep enough and use a regular 5/16 18 tap. I have a bottom and tap, but I couldn't find it today, so I ordered 2 more. They're $3 and change on Amazon. I could have gone and borrowed one, but I'm deep enough it'll be okay. The next time I'll have the bottom and tap, I'll put it with my transmission parts, transmission tools. I have them all in a tote because I get tired of reintegrating them into the toolbox and then going to grab them again. So a lot of this stuff here lives in a plastic tote. If we're going to build a Turbo 400, I just set it on the bench. Today, like most things worth doing, take time. The hard way takes time. I see a lot of people doing it, and a lot of people ask me if they can put an SFI Bellhousing on with a transmission assembled. I still say no. The amount of grit that I made, and I'm pretty efficient with the Sawzall. I don't have to grind a whole lot, but you're still grinding, in areas quite a bit. I wouldn't do it. And then you got to trial fit everything. If you were adding holes, obviously, if you were going to pull the pump out, you got to strip the transmission. I just think it's a losing proposition. But hey, that's just me. I wouldn't do it. Your results may vary. So anyway, I hope you got something out of this episode. It's material we've covered before, but at least this case, it's kind of all in one video. And I'll catch you in a couple days. Take her easy.